That's right. I'll explain why I did that. Yes, I see.
Please join me with the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call for the record. Mayor Lindsay,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Howe,
Here.
Councillor Humbert, Councillor Crane,
Here.
and Councillor Weeks. I don't believe we have a quorum.
We do.
We do? Okay, we have a quorum. You may proceed.
At this time, I'd ask for a motion to approve the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
At this time, I would ask for a motion for the approval of the consent agenda.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem, was that an aye?
Yes, I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
It was a low aye.
Want to make sure we get it through. I don't believe there's anybody that requested to speak this evening. Do we have any announcements or proclamations by the council? If not, we'll move on to our staff reports. Up first is Public Works Director Kurt Epler.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, Manager Weir, Clerk Strickland. Quick update on Public Works. We're still in Water Department, we're still experiencing few frozen water services, but the number has drastically diminished over the last week. It should be noted that throughout the village, we have currently 4 fire hydrants that the complete top of the fire hydrant is missing. We are aware of these. We obviously will want to resolve those situations when conditions are more favorable and the ground isn't frozen. We do appreciate people reporting when they notice something that's askew with a fire hydrant or any of our components out there, but we are well aware of 4 that the tops are completely missing, and we have a number of hydrants out there that are not functioning properly as well. And the hope is throughout this summer, we can get all of those addressed. In regards to water, I will say that me and Manager Weir had a meeting with the Office of the State Engineer today to discuss water rights, water usage, water conservation, and essentially convey to them what we're trying to do on our end in regards to acquiring water rights, but also measures that we're taking to conserve water and fix leaks, so forth and so on. We were happy to hear that in the calendar year, end of December, we had used 300 acre feet less than the prior year, which is pretty substantial. What that's totally contributed to, I don't think it's any one thing. I know there was a huge substantial leak year before last that could have impacted it, and maybe lower numbers in the summer. I don't know, but it was great news to hear that we're using less water. Hopefully we continue to do so. On streets, we've been using the windows of opportunity and the weather to go out and work on various road sections throughout the village. And that's progressing pretty well. We also had a couple of the streets department guys start on the grubbing of lots 6 and 7 behind Village Hall for the temporary event center we're going to do out there. Again, we'll take advantage of the opportunities weather gives us to push forward with as much of that raw earthwork as we can going into the spring. Are there any questions at this time? Sure. That's all I've got.
Thank you very much. Next I've got Fire Chief Jason Vance.
Good evening, Mayor Lindsay, members of the council, Manager Weir and Village Clerk Strickland. I'm gonna be a little bit long-winded today, so if at any point you want me to stop and come up for air, just let me know or raise your hand and I'll stop. We have quite a bit going on. I first of all wanted to give a big thank you to the chaplain services that are working with us in the fire department. We've had some things that have come up in the fire department that have required their services. And they've come through in a very big way. So thank you to Charles Wilson and the rest of their staff for that. I also want to talk about wildland slash reduction efforts with Captain Romo. They're doing a great job. Work continues with the slash pit reduction. We're planning on having the lower pit cleared out completely by April 1st is when our slash season will begin and the gates will open. I just wanted to acknowledge them for their effort. If you've driven by there anytime recently, you'll see that that pit is significantly lower than it ever has been, and they're killing it. So thanks again. They are also responding to a 2025 cooperators meeting in Albuquerque this week, in which they will discuss preparation for this year's wildland season in cooperation with surrounding areas. So looking forward to them coming back and giving us a report on that meeting. Our new pumper tender, 3566 is now officially in service. Its home is at Station 3. That's the one that we kind of gunned to our head, found and put into service. We now finally have all the NFPA required equipment on that vehicle. And so it adds 1,250 gallons per minute pumping capacity, as well as 300 gallons carrying capacity to our ISO rating. So that will help significantly the next time we're inspected. So I just wanted to publicly acknowledge the mayor, the council, and the village manager for making that project happen. I think the citizens are better for it. I think it serves the village well. The state fire marshal's office was up here a week and a half ago. The process that we worked out for business fire inspections has worked out very well. They did about 10 to 12 fire inspections. Lieutenant Forsyth is here and showed the fire inspector around and showed them where the businesses went, and kind of kept on them to keep doing more and more. So we were able to do that. I did want to remind everybody that the process is to go to the fire department website and click on the links there that are available to request a business fire inspection. Are there any questions on that? Again, the state is performing all of our business fire inspections. We have also been working with the visitor center, Director Greg Ralph, on a fire inspection process for short-term rentals. I say that after that fact because they are two separate things. I want to remind everybody that we are currently working on a website for that specifically, and it sounds like it's going to be up and running pretty soon. The fire inspection process is completed for that, but it is going to be a self-inspection for the short-term rentals. So people will be able to go through, follow the instructions, upload a couple of documents, and we'll be able to review that and pass it forward so people can get that short-term rental permit. Any questions about that?
Will you be doing any random inspections?
Yes, we do have a statement in there that we can perform random inspections. It is our full intention to audit some of those, particularly those that have any red flags that come up through that inspection checklist. It answers a lot of yes or no questions, and depending on the answer, it populates more items within that checklist. One of the big things that we have is there must be an evacuation template or an evacuation plan for every short-term rental, and that must be posted at every exit as well as any point of entry or exit. And if there's any comments that we need to make, or there's any red flags that comes up through that process, we also have the capability of looking on Google Earth and looking if that fire evacuation plan makes sense for the building. So we will be auditing some of those and going through those and making sure all the information is accurate.
Very good.
Yes, sir. We've spent several days in legislature recently at the Roundhouse lobbying for funding for a new fire station, among other village priorities. We received some verbal commitment for support from Representative Joseph Sanchez and Senator Pete Campos. Yesterday, Rocky Lara, Julie Callahan, thank you guys for coming in your support of that meeting. As grant writers, as well as Mayor Lindsay and myself, were able to sit down with Madam Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham. We were very encouraged by that meeting. and feel like we had very positive, support from the governor. And, we will know the final determination of financial commitments by the end of the legislative session, which is a 60-day session, and that ends on March 22nd. Did you have any comment that you wanted to add to that, sir?
I just felt like the meeting went as well as it could have.
I agree, very encouraging. As far as recruitment and training, we just hired another firefighter EMT, this month. He is supported by the Firefighters Recruitment Act grant that we received last year. So we now have, 3 of the 3 positions that we were allowed by that, covered by the grant, and the village is better for having more staffing on every single day. We have better coverage than we've ever had, to my knowledge. We also just had a DOT inspection. As you know, the PRC was absorbed by the Department of Transportation. The rumor was out there that they were going to be much more stringent. So we had a 4-hour inspection to which they crawled through all of our documentation and all of our training records and all of the requirements. And we were able to successfully pass. And so we can operate as an ambulance service again for another year. Until the next inspection. So we look forward towards all the feedback that we got in that DOT inspection and applying that towards the next one. Any questions about that? My last item is just an announcement. FA1 takes walk-ins from Thursday through Sunday. I don't know that that's widely known throughout the village. We also put out a post on our Facebook site. So think of it as like an urgent care type of situation or prescription maintenance, but they will take walk-in appointments on a case-by-case basis, and they have a nurse practitioner that's there. And one moment, sir. Dr. Michael Rossi would be an adjunct to that and support that even further. As I understand, his application is being approved by the Board of Physicians. We don't have a timeline for that, but if and when he comes on board, it will help us in that regard. Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, Chief, if you could just explain for the public what FA1 is and where it is.
Oh, I apologize. FA1 and Fire Department Speak is the clinic that's at the base of the ski hill. Basically where the ski patrol functions out of. The lower story of that is a first aid clinic, FA First Aid. And they have a nurse practitioner that works in there, again, through those business hours, which are Thursday through Sunday, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. You can have a walk-in appointment if you need urgent care type related services for them. So everything short of a doctor and anything that would need to be escalated, they call the fire department and we can transport to TALS if need be.
Along those lines, I'll just add that Dr. Michael Rossi did accept our medical director position. And then I learned today that he's accepted the other 2 positions that were offered to him in the area. And so as you pointed out, he's just waiting to be board certified in New Mexico, but it looks like we will be getting a position back in Angel Fire.
Wonderful. It's huge news. Any other questions for me?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Next up is Parks and Rec Director Shay Tillish.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, Madam Strickland or Clerk Strickland and Manager Weir. Well, still no water or heat at the community center. We did have the previous plumber that I told you about did come out and he installed one of the pumps that were already there at the center and fixed about 17 leaks. That's pretty much the issue that we're dealing with now. He thought he could turn on the boiler, but every time we turned the water on, a new leak would come up. Mainly in the bathroom and the boiler room is where all the leaks were. So far, we haven't had any like in the kitchen or anything, but we haven't had the water on to see if more are gonna arise. Until we get all the leaks fixed and we can't turn the boiler on. I stopped hearing from that plumber back on 2/13, February 13th. Rocky did speak to him after that, and he had said that we needed two new heat exchangers for the boilers in order to be able to turn them on. And there were some more leaks to fix, and he was going to provide an estimate for that, or maybe even just replacing the boilers, depending on the cost and stuff. That was something we talked about before. And haven't received anything from him on that. And so I've actually reached out to another plumber who I'm looking from Albuquerque, called Albuquerque Plumbing and Heating. And they're supposed to come out on Thursday morning, probably, possibly, if I get everything in for them to be able to do that, to take a look at it again. So this would be plumber number 3.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, please contact Chief Holbrook. He has, he previously had volunteered a plumber that he knew quite well out of Cuesta.
Okay,
That might be available, but we just didn't pursue it because we started using, this other gentleman from Taos.
okay,
But he did, at one point, Chief Holbrook had somebody who was ready to come over and check it out for us anyhow.
okay, I'll reach out to him. So that's where we're at with that. Luckily, it's been pretty warm. The center's colder than outside actually, but it's been warm enough that we've had it open to you know, the regular groups, pickleball and everything, and they just bring their own water and know to hold it until they they leave. So that's it on that. Any questions? No? And then on the west side, Dennis Engineering is getting ready to do a new design for that. We're gonna have them go ahead and do another design. And the cost, I don't have the full cost on that and what it would cost with whatever they come up with the design. I don't know any more past that. In looking back at it, it's a little bit of good news. We're not over an estimated of 100K like we thought. It's about 40K that we're over, and 23 of that it was for the concrete that we requested. So that's a little bit better than what was previously thought. Allen Field's design plans are being constructed now, so they should by Dennis Engineering again. So we should be seeing those and hopefully getting to start on those sometime in the near future. We were awarded the Trails Plus grant for $999.99 and $99,999. Yeah, and that will begin. I'm going to be talking with Rocky, the project director, about getting engineering plans for that and hopefully getting that underway also. And the playground is completed. Looking to have maybe a grand opening or a couple other things there. I had Cameron Lindsay reach out to me about doing an Easter egg hunt up there and a couple other things. So people have enjoyed the playground. I will want to do a little bit of landscaping. It looks good, but it definitely needs some landscaping and such around it. But other than that, that's all I have right now. Any questions?
Thank you.
No, okay, thank you.
Finally, from staff reports, we have our project director, Rocky Lira.
Mayor Lindsay, councilors, Manager Weir, Clerk Strickland. To start off, I'd like to say that we're very close to 100% of all the clerk duties being transferred over to our new clerk. And I'd have to say that Ileana has been a very good hire. And we're very grateful to have her, and she's taken over the clerk duties successfully and very quickly. So that's a good thing for me. For all of us, that's right. Shay just mentioned about the Frank Young Trail Extension Project. I did put the award on the agenda to be approved to continue on to move with. We have received that award. As soon as if that is approved, as Shay had mentioned, I'll be working with her on the engineering to get that going. The new fire station, we have a design, Chief Vance has a design for the new fire station. I've recently requested a quote from Dale Jackson to give us a quote on what it would take to construct that new fire station. But I have not received it yet. And
Yes, point out, the reason for asking for this quote, this is not a bid to do the fire station. This is to get an understanding of what a local contractor might charge to build the station as designed. We want to make sure that whatever we're designing, we can afford. So it's an exercise. Dale Jackson will be compensated for his time on the bid, knowing that it's not gonna mean that he will ultimately be building it, but just to clarify that process. Manager,
Mr. Mayor, I also like to add to that we kind of feel like we need a solid number to seek funding.
obviously the architect will have a cost estimator do that, but we wanted to see, based on our region and our labor, and so we wanted to get a realistic number of what we feel like, so that again, when we're going after these funds, talking to the governor, we're not asking for money for a project that we can't complete.
Thank you for that clarification. And of course, you heard we are going to the state to ask for some money to assist with that build. Angel Fire Airport, Colfax County and FAA have agreed to my assistance to help manage the grants that apply to the airport. And so I'll be tracking the movement of those grants and assisting with administration of them. There's a few of them that are due pretty soon, and I'm going to get myself involved those pretty closely. Workforce Housing Project, of course, you know, received the $2.5 million grant for infrastructure. This grant also requires environmental and biological assessment, and that's being conducted right now by Dennis Engineering. Dennis Engineering was awarded the civil engineering contract and has subcontracted to do the environmental and the biological assessment as well. Tappan is working on a site map right now. We saw a little bit of it today for 30 housing units, and it's still in work in progress. He's working on doing a pretty good job about that. We've identified vendors who can deliver modular homes to Angel Fire before October 30th of 2025. And we're prepared to issue a second round of questions to maybe a fine set of those vendors that can deliver. And financing our workforce housing project has been clearly identified. And we are going to expect to move forward with that company as well, which is Sustainability Partners. Any questions on that? The AIM Volunteer Ambassador Project for the fire department has been put on pause by the federal government. But the Chief Vance is so kind to be able to continue paying for Lindsay Reed until that is lifted. But when that gets lifted out of that state, I'll continue to submit reimbursements on a monthly basis for Lindsay Reed. You may have heard about the new Kosh Solutions, the IT contract. So that contract, Kosh Solutions, has now officially provided technical support for all of the village as we speak right now. Kosh Solution has completed our onboarding process. That was the initial process to transfer all of the administrative duties and the ownership that I-Team had over to them. And so that has been successfully transferred over. And they have also visited each of our village departments, and they've installed the virtual access agent on each of the computers so that they could access them when there's trouble with their computers in the future. And what's really great is that when we went to each building, not only did they install the agent, but they fixed little problems here and there, whatever they found. Printers that weren't working, computers that weren't communicating with the Wi-Fi, whatever it was, they were just fixing things left and right. And I thought that was very helpful and nice of them to do that. They're fantastic. Outstanding, there still is a couple issues with the airport. Colfax County still owns the administration rights to those computers. So Kosh was not able to install the agents on those computers until they release that ownership of them. But Kosh has everything they need to work that out with them. Nuvve, you know, our contractor is about to start replacing all of our low voltage wiring. Those are the blue wires you see that connect each of our computers with a server and the centralized closet out there. So they're working on that. We should have a date that they're going to start tomorrow. So I'm real excited about that to get that going, because that's going to give us a lot better wiring diagram system for the hall. The Nuvve paperless project update. Nuvve picked up records from 7 rooms here in the village. If you remember, it was 246 boxes, I believe. And they've completed inventory and organized all of the HR files, which is room 1, and the clerk files, which were in my office. Scanning of the records will start when all 7 rooms have been inventoried and organized. So they're going through this process of organizing all the files and all the records before they start actually scanning them. Because they're finding records in different boxes that maybe shouldn't be there and organizing them in that way. And last but not least, water rights. I am actively seeking financing for 200 plus acre feet of water rights for the village of Angel Fire, and there'll be more to come later. Any questions? Anything?
So thank you for the update. Thank you. I'm moving on to committee reports. Do we have any committee reports this evening? No committee reports this evening. We'll move on to new business. I'll start with item A. I'd like to open discussion to approve various bars, resolution 2025-05. Clerk Strickland.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, Manager Weir. So I'm just presenting to you the various bars that were submitted to me. I'm gonna go down line by line on the item. There's a bar in the amount of $1,173, funds to be used to purchase a new computer for pilot use. We have another bar in the amount of $5,000, funds correcting budget and budgeted items in LGBMs. And then we also have a bar in the amount of $245,000, funds from carryover cash for attorney fees and professional services. We have a bar in the amount of $2,850, donations for employee lunch and airport coffee moved to food and beverage. And lastly, we have a bar in the amount of $165,000 funds from cash for advertising and professional services. And if you do have any questions, I'll defer to the individuals who submitted these or in the alternative to Village Manager Weir.
Thanks, Clerk.
Thank you.
If there's no further questions or discussion, I'd ask Mayor Pro Tem Howe to make a motion.
I make a motion to approve various bars, resolution 2025-05. Second.
Okay, roll call vote on item A. Mayor Pro Tem Howe,
Aye.
Councilor Crane,
Aye.
and then, excuse me, I haven't done a quorum this small. Do I get mayor's vote on this one? Okay,
Unless the two of them disagree.
very well. So then motion passed.
Moving on to item B. The hearing will now open. The Village of Angel Fire presents the following ordinance to the public. One is Geo Bond Ordinance Series 1.20.25. Geo Bond Ordinance will play a crucial role in funding essential infrastructure for the Village of Angel Fire. Geo Bond Ordinance Series 1.20.25 is now open for public comment. Manager Ware, did you have anything you'd like to add?
Mr. Mayor, Council, I would just say that this was, these are GO bond funds that were approved by the public, I believe in 2021 in an election. And this is the last staunch of those funds that were approved in 2021 that we can go out and collect. Was it 2020 or 2020? It was 2020. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. So this is the last part of those that we can now go out and actually sell the bonds, and we will be selling the bonds to DFA. They have sent me, DFA's already submitted a request for information, which I responded to, but then they decided they didn't realize we got caught up on our audits. So they had some additional questions about the current audit, and I haven't had a chance to respond to that. But I see all this, this should take place following the schedule that was presented before by our advisor, Eric Harrigan. In our previous session. So again, this is just the last bit of bond money that was approved previously by the voters.
There's nothing further. Geo Bond Ordinance Series 1.2025 closed for public comment. I'll move on to item 2, the Defensible Space Ordinance. The ordinance seeks to establish the processes by which property owners within the wildland urban interface area of Angel Fire can obtain a certificate confirming the extent in which the property complies with the DSO requirements and recommendations, and allows property owners to obtain property insurance with greater ease. Defensible Space Ordinance is now open for public comment. Manager Weir, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, Council, I would like to say that I apologize for the late delivery of this. We did run this through legal counsel. There are some minor changes I'd like to go over with you real quick that legal counsel had. There was some wording, that was really inconsequential to the meaning of it that you'll see. Unfortunately, I guess, we need to get, our clerk a colored printer because I provided a red line version, but, the items that were added are underlined and the items that were removed have a line through them. And so if you go through this, most of it is just naming conventions, but I would like to turn your attention to page 3. In the paragraph right above the picture, you'll see that the words based on were added, and then removed was the concept of the home ignition zone was developed by the USDA. Legal counsel felt that was just inconsequential to the ordinance and left us open to, it didn't need to be in there in order to accomplish the goals. She left it as research into homes ignite because of the rest of that sentence. The next notable change, and none of these were significant, none of them really had a huge impact on the meaning of the ordinance. So it's basically the same as was presented to you in the commission to proceed. But if you go to page 10, on page 10, you'll see that basically just some name changes, but there's some language that on the bottom of that section 6, it says the village encourages and are also available. There was an addition, I'm sorry, up above I missed in 5.1, may request village certification of such compliance. Also in 5.3, 50% of improved development lots located in improved developed lots located in the village. And then the final one was the end of ordinance language. She felt that was inappropriate and had that stricken altogether. And those were the only significant changes. The rest of it was just using names instead of abbreviations or properly, there were some naming differences in there. But in substance, the ordinance is the same as we originally presented.
If there's no further comment. Municipal faith ordinance closed for public comment. We'll move on to item C. I'd like to open discussion. Approved GO bond ordinance series 1.20.25. Manager Weir.
Sorry. So again, this is just the GO bond ordinance and we're asking for approval by the council for us to go out and sell the bonds to DFA.
And Mr. Manager, I believe this would be what, 900,000 for water, wastewater, and 900,000 for roads.
That's correct. 1.8 in total, 900 for water, wastewater, and 900 for roads.
Any further questions or discussion? I've not asked Mayor Pro Tem how to make a motion.
I make a motion to approve the GO bond ordinance series 1.20.25. Second.
Roll call vote on item C. Mayor Pro Tem Howe
Aye.
and Councilor Crane.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Okay, moving on to item B. I'd like to open discussion to approve the dispensable space ordinance. Chief Vance, did you want to add anything to what Manager Weir has mentioned in the
I don't want to add, excuse me, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Senator Weir, Mrs. Strickland, Mrs. Strickland, excuse me. I don't want to add anything other than, thank you to all the work that the, Fire Adaptive Committee did on getting the ball rolling and getting the language and giving us a basis to build the DSO language off of, as well as, everybody else who contributed, Brian Lindsay and, the District Force Office and, Rick Smith and, Captain Romo and Lindsay Reed, our fire ambassador. Anybody have any questions about the DSO language or anything else?
Once again, I want to congratulate all the village staff and all the outside entities that helped us finally get this done.
I would just say, we're gonna have a big task of taking in all this material, and I know that's one of our big milestones to make sure that we can process the material before we're ready to move forward with any modifications to this. So I wish you well in handling all this material this year, so.
Thank you. I'm not sure of the next steps, whether we have to take this back to committee for presentation or anything like that, but I'm welcome to participate in any of that necessary.
Mr. Mayor, the next step is we have to publish it. And it has to be published for at least, is it 5 days, Rocky, or 7 days? No, it's 5 days before it becomes active. I think it's 5 days. 14 is what you have to publish it before it's approved. Once it's approved, you have to republish it. And it has to be published for 5 days before we can enforce it. And then it's in ordinance. So we do have to send it to our codifier, American Legal. What they do is they check our ordinance against state statute and federal statute to make sure there's no conflicts before it actually is officially codified. But that doesn't mean we can't act on it at that point. It just, because it takes them months, several months to codify a new ordinance.
My understanding, the goal was to have this live by April 1, which is when we're gonna start intaking more slash material, and so shouldn't be a problem.
That's correct.
Right. No further discussion. I'd ask Mayor Pro Tem Howe to make a motion.
I make a motion to approve defensible space ordinance.
Second.
Roll call vote on item D. Mayor Pro Tem Howe
Aye.
and Councilor Crane.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Moving on to item E, I'll open discussion for the approval of Knowles and Corbin as the on-call airport engineer, RFP 2025-01.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, Manager Weir, and, Madam Strickland. Before you, you have, the, request to approve the, Airport Committee's recommendation of Molson Corbin. The committee met on February 11th when the RFP was, to review the RFP. The evaluation committee had made the recommendation of Molson Corbin. They had the best score, narrowly. And their recommendation is to, approve Molson Corbin as the airport engineer. I'll stand for any questions you may have.
Further questions, discussion? I'd ask Mayor Pro Tem Howe to make a motion.
I make a motion to approve the Molson Corbin as the on-call airport engineer, RFP 2025-01.
Second.
Roll call vote on item E. Mayor Pro Tem Howe
Aye.
and Councilor Crane.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Moving on to item F, we'll open discussion to approve to submit RFP 2025-02 for a land surveyor.
Okay, gentlemen, RFP 2025, it should be 002, land surveyor. Manager Weir had brought up the concern that, our, surveying services are reaching the limit where an RFP is required. So to cover our bases, we're, requesting submittal of an RFP for a land surveyor so that, we are in compliance with procurement code. I don't stand for any questions.
Questions or comments? I would ask that Mayor Pro Tem Howe make a motion on RFP 2025-002.
I make a motion to approve to submit RFP 2025-002 for a land surveyor.
Second.
Roll call vote on item F. Mayor Pro Tem Howe
Aye.
Counselor Crane,
Aye.
motion passed.
Moving on to item G, open discussion to approval to move forward with the Trails Plus Grant Award for $99,999. Lyra,
Yeah, Lindsay, Councilman, Manager Weir, Clerk Strickland. I'm here to request approval of, to move forward with the Trail Plus grant, which is for the Frank Young Trail for $99,999.
any further questions or discussion for Mr. Lyra? I'd ask Mayor Pro Tem Howe to make a motion.
Make a motion to approve moving forward with the Trail Plus Grant Award, $99,999.
Second.
Roll call vote on item G. Mayor Pro Tem Howe
Aye.
and Counselor Crane,
Aye.
motion passed.
Thank you.
Item H, I'd like to open discussion. The approval to submit resolution 2025-06, application for planning grant.
Good evening, Mayor and Council and Manager Ware and Clerk Strickland. Before you, this resolution is seeking approval to apply for a planning grant offered by New Mexico Finance Authority. It is one of the requirements to submit that grant. Our odds are, we're pretty much the wrong demographic, but I hope, submit the grant and never know what happens. The most we could receive is $100,000.
So to elaborate on your comment, what demographic,
They're looking for more economically disadvantaged communities. I have applied for this grant 3 years ago and we were denied. I did receive this grant. I have received this grant one time and for planning, and then we did it for planning for roads. I don't recall which one or when, but depending on how our audit looks and what we have available in cash balance that they look at, that's the deciding factor.
understood, we don't give what we don't ask for, so,
I'm throw spaghetti on the wall, see if it sticks. Never know.
thank you. Any further questions? Yes, sir.
Madam CPO, can you, inform the council on what the dollar amount matches on this grant?
I don't recall at this time. I don't know if it's a disbursement, like a regular $100,000 or what. I don't recall a match on this one, on the planning grant from
In
CFA.
the paperwork you provided, I didn't see that, and that's why I was wondering.
Yeah, I don't recall that there
So
is
you don't
one
think
for that
there,
one.
there may not be a match.
Right,
Okay. Thank you.
yes, sir.
Mayor Pro Tem Howe, if you would make a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve to submit resolution 2025-06, application for planning grant.
Second.
Roll call vote on item H. Mayor Pro Tem Howe
Aye.
and Counselor Crane,
Aye.
motion passed.
All right, moving on to item I, I'll open discussion. The approval to submit a request proposal for design and construction of 2 metal frame buildings, number 3 booster and number 2 booster. Director Epler.
Yes, we would like to set out an RFP to rebuild 2 of the booster station structures. We have money in budget to do these buildings. I've asked for plan and design of a metal building structure. The hope is that we'll have something that will stand the test of time. So it'd be a metal frame with closed cell spray foam insulation. And what we're envisioning is building the structure over the existing structure and then demoing the existing from the inside to keep all the components protected during construction. Another reason for this is to create space within the buildings, because when they were constructed, the pumps being used at the time laid horizontally, and which allowed for room to lift them on and off when you had to do repairs or replacement. Now that we use a vertical stand pump, These buildings have a interior height of about 6.5 feet. So there's not any room to have any kind of lifting apparatus, so the guys are basically manhandling them in. And, the booster station 3, for instance, well, and 2, they're both the same, the size of pumps. They weigh about 150 pounds and they're pretty cumbersome to get, but, the age of the buildings, they're deteriorating rapidly. And, we've on occasion, when we've had to switch pumps out for repairs or replacement, I've had to cut holes in the ceiling to get them lifted out. But they are, the current buildings are wood frame construction with bad insulation and, home to many, many rodents. And, an improvement that's vastly needed. And the hope is that we can have these buildings come in at a cost that makes it viable to move towards replacing all of them that need to be replaced.
Where's number 3 and number 2 located?
Number 3 is right up here by what we call the 1,000,000-gallon tank, the one that's most visible from here in the village. And number 2 is just below Peralta Drive.
Any questions, comments? I'd ask Mayor Pro Tem Howe to make the motion on item I.
I make a motion to approve to submit a request for proposal for design and construction of 2 metal frame buildings, number 3 booster and number 2 booster.
Second.
Roll call vote on item I. Mayor Pro Tem Howe
Aye.
and Counselor Crane.
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion passed.
Move on to item J. I'll open discussion to approve and submit. Approval to submit an RFP 2024-004 for workforce housing project. We did have discussion earlier or later last week, and I don't feel like this item needs to be discussed at this time.
I thought it was actually amended out on,
It was gonna be.
Okay.
To the point, we approved the agenda with it. And so, if no motion is made, then I believe we could move on. So, I would ask Mayor Pro Tem Howe to make a motion if he so chooses.
I make a motion to postpone approval of permission to engage services with City Service Vulcan Company.
No, item J. We're still on item J. Mayor Pro Tem.
see, I think.
Does his not have it?
Correct. It was removed on some, his,
His doesn't have it.
correct, his doesn't.
Mine does.
Mine
Are you looking
does.
at the amended agenda?
There were 2 agendas handed out in the packet.
Oh, I apologize.
See, I think we have the non-amended and he has the amended.
It should be in your packet.
That's okay. If it's not, so that was
It's
what
not on there.
Okay.
we had asked for it to be taken out, but mine had it in it. And we didn't take it out at the beginning. So I just wanted to be clear.
Thanks, Jared. Just for clarification's sake, since we're approving the agenda, or we have voted to approve the agenda, is it the amended?
Well, it was amended and posted. It was a deletion,
Right.
but at this point, I don't think it hurts to. I don't even know if it needs to be postponed, quite frankly. I would just not bring it up. If possible.
You can make, Mr. Mayor, you can make no motion at all.
Exactly. That's my point. If we just don't make a motion, we'll move on.
I apologize, I wasn't aware this was requested to be removed.
No, it was, and it has been on half the agendas apparently. I just want to make sure that everybody's on the same page. So Mayor Pro Tem, if you would make a motion, if you so choose, which you don't even have it in front of you. So I'll ask Councilor Crane if he would like to make a motion on item J.
I would not. My impression was this item was to be removed, because it was redundant. So it
Because why, I'm sorry.
was redundant,
Well, at this time, it's not needed.
right?
So if no motion is made, item J on the original agenda dies. Yeah, Julie, help us out here.
Sure, Councilman Crane can make a motion and it can die for lack of a second.
Okay.
So again, and I apologize, I don't mean to make this difficult, but only some of us have the item J.
You could quote the original agenda, say on the original agenda, item J is this, I motion to yada yada, and it can die for lack of a second.
I did open it for discussion, so I think the best thing would be to make a motion to approve item J, Mayor Pro Tem.
So item J is on workforce housing.
Correct.
Correct,
So that's what I'm on.
Okay,
correct, that's the confusion.
all right. So I'm making a motion to postpone approval to submit RFP 2025-004 for workforce housing project.
And then I will not be contributing to that motion, so we can move on.
If there's not a second, the motion dies. And we will now move on to what is on my agenda, item K, which must be Mayor Pro Tem Powell's items and Councilor Crane's item J. So I'll be opening discussion for approval of permission to engage services with City Service Falcon Company. Jeff Gilmer.
Peter Lindsay, and Julia, counselors, Kirk Strickland. This is a pretty simple, request. City Services Valcon is our fuel vendor. And in the process of moving the credit card payment machines over to the village so that we take the money instead of the county, and part of their provision in their contract is simply to have you all to have the one who is taking on this responsibility have some discussion that it is okay to actually move this forward. It is pretty much as simple as that. If you all stand for questions and if you want to know a little bit more.
No questions or further discussion. I would ask Mayor Pro Tem Powell to make a motion.
I make a motion for approval of permission to engage services for City Service Vulcan Company.
Second.
Roll call vote on item K. Mayor Pro Tem Howe,
Aye.
Councilor Crane,
Aye.
motion passed.
Finally, on the agenda this evening is our manager's report. Manager Weir.
Mr. Mayor, Council, it has been quite a busy, really busy. With ongoings, I think most of them, fortunately, for longevity of this meeting, most of them have been discussed by the staff already, so I'm not gonna waste time reiterating what they said, but I will tell you that the little bit of duplication, we did have a very productive meeting with the water master today and gained a lot of information that I think will help us. And we've made Rocky kind of underplayed what he has done as far as water rights, but we have made huge progress towards being able to fund the acquisition of water rights. And I think we're set up in that for some level of success. That said, I'm not going to count on it, and we were actually going to start pursuing other sources of water rights. So because it is still, even though we had a savings of 300 acre feet last year, which actually allowed them to put water into our storage as opposed to take water out of our storage like we had in the 2 prior years, or maybe more than 2 prior years. It's the numbers still aren't big enough to make us comfortable. And for the long-term viability of this village, we still, it's my opinion, we still need to acquire approximately 200 acre feet of water rights. So we're going to continue to pursue that, and some new sources that we learned about today at the state engineer's office.
And Mr. Manager, those are senior water rights?
They are.
Thank you.
We now have a list of all of the water rights in our watershed. district and the date of those rights. So we know which ones, again, we're seeking pre 1883 or prior to that water rights in order to assure we have senior position and don't have to stop using water. And so we now know who has those rights. And we will be approaching them to, in case the deals that we have right now on the table fall through.
I'd also just add to the public that if you can do, do whatever you can now to start conserving water. As you know, this winter's been extremely dry and we do anticipate water restrictions coming in the near future if Mother Nature doesn't cooperate. And so anything that people can do now on a basic level to conserve water would be greatly appreciated.
And Mr. Mayor, along those lines, so just so you know, the state engineer's office has requested that we do perform education. They think the only way out of the water crisis in New Mexico is through conservation. And so they've asked us to do that, and I approached our tourism director, Greg Ralph, to make sure that he pursued both through the podcast and through the Village Voice that we distribute monthly, that we start including conservation tips and things like that. And lo and behold, he was ahead of the game. He'd already written an article on water conservation that he had written last week. I didn't know about it until today. So we are ahead of the game there. And he will be interviewing Director Epler. And part of that interview will also be on water conservation for the podcast. So that's already been scheduled. And we will need, my recommendation to the council is that we start a program of water conservation, education to the public, and try and educate the public and our guests on what they can do to help us with water rights, because without water, you know, this village, this valley is going to struggle economically. And that's all I have for the council at this time.
Well, I appreciate it, Manager Ware. With that, this meeting is adjourned.